Back to
Oh,
our Bible teaching. This would be part two of our series of teaching, and we're going to get into certain subjects that are in Genesis, but also throughout the Bible. We're going to be revealing God's works through His time within His images and vessels. And I'm going to start off by reading Revelation 13, and then my name is Craig, by the way, and then I'll be handing it off to Adam to continue with the teaching. I saw one of his heads as though it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. All right, everybody, take away, Adam.
hello everyone. So we're over here. The last video we had, we were talking about Genesis. We were talking about the first day, the light and the darkness. And in this, what'd you call it? Summary? In this topic, the whole concept of this topic right here is the word time. So we're trying to explain for you guys that in each day in Genesis, when you read chapter 1, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, 6, and 7, there's a bit more. In our next video, we'll dive even deeper into revealing how those days that are talked about in chapter 1 of Genesis is actually more of an overview of events that actually were cryptic that played out in our world, starting from day 1, which was Adam, who was both light and dark. And then we know that because he ate from what tree? Good and evil, light and dark. And then we go into the second day, which really, if you read it, says water from above and below. Well, we know what happened during the flood. So that makes very clear. Now, the thing is, people don't understand too much about the seventh day and chapter 1 of Genesis. In the seventh day, it says he rests. Now, if we understand our history and we read the Bible right, when did he ever rest in guiding and preaching his people, which, again, we're all children of Adam. So he took a group of children of Adam and he dubbed them the name Children of Israel, okay? And he was teaching these children of Adam through a new name, Israel, to eventually fast forward to preach this word, this knowledge onto all nations, right? So that's a very important understanding right there. Now, the only time we have where he stopped really doing something that's close to where a rest is 400 years in Egypt. Now, you have from the point of Joseph, after he died, then the children of Israel were in captivity for a good length of time, years, right? So they didn't remember anything. They didn't know a lot of the stuff of Abraham's time, Adam's time, for sure that they forgot. And this is why when Moses came into the picture, when he says in the Bible, I brought you out of Egypt, it means that I brought you out of Egypt through a vessel image, which we know is by the name Moses. So we see right here how the Father works through, again, the body. And what is our body? Well, our body is a vessel, a temple, the image in which he wishes to appear as. Can a cross or a corpse or a house speak? Can it, Craig? No. So if a vessel, a corpse, a house cannot speak the living word, and only a fleshly living body can do it, not even animals can do it, then clearly we understand that us as a human being is the images. We are the image of him. Okay, we represent him. It's like a job. You put on a uniform, you represent your job. Well, our mouth, our the way we think, how we act represents the Father. Okay? Now, getting back to the whole point of He rested in Egypt because he was not instructing anymore. Okay? Then when Moses came into the picture, he started to start up again and teaching, right? A group of children of Adam. He started to teach them on Mount Sinai all the things that happened from the time of Adam to the present, and then some not aspects, but some understanding of what was to come. Okay, we know that in Leviticus 26, further down in that chapter, it talks about a scattering that has never happened in the likes that it did in Babylon, Assyria time, the Persian time, a scattering that was like no other. Okay, because it talks about, I'll bring you back to a land once you become obedient. If you're disobedient, I'm going to take you away from this land. He didn't say I'm going to take you away from the sky. He says, I'm going to bring you to this land that I'm going to take you away from when I remember you. Because once you remember my ways, I'll remember my promise that I made with the forefathers. So again, the question may be, well, what's this point? Well, the point is, in Revelation, I saw one of his. Who's his? It talks about a beast, but we have to understand this is a decoding. So there's no beast that's going to appear in our world that's going to look like a 7-head creature. Okay? So let's get that straight. So I saw one of his heads. So his would be the Father. Heads, we already discussed. Heads, vessels, temples. We were talking about an image. Okay? That becomes very serious because we're talking about a crucial point in time. As though it was wounded to death. What does it mean, as though it was wounded to death? It means that something happened to a person in time that would seem like that person died. Wounded to death, right? Wouldn't you say, Craig?
Yeah.
So wounded to death. Now we know everyone assumed, far as their knowledge was, Emmanuel was dead. Which everyone, for a lack of better understanding, calls Jesus. I say that because, again, if we follow the words, Isaiah said the name first, which was Emmanuel. Okay? And then they changed it to Jesus, connecting to a different name, which was Joshua, which is Yahshua. So in the Hebrew tongue. But Isaiah said it way before, Emmanuel. That's nothing close to Yahshua, right?
Yeah.
So it was Emmanuel. Now, understanding, it even says it one time in Matthew and then it's gone. So think about that. Wounded to death, so they assumed he was dead. As his deadly wound was healed, what point of time do we know of a person who was wounded that many people saw? Because we'll find that out in verse 4, if you can get that ready for me.
Yeah, I got it.
In verse 4, we're going to find out more about what's going on. But his deadly wound was healed. So this person died that everyone saw. So we know it wasn't just a few people saw. It was known, okay? It was talked about. So a person died whose wound was healed. We're talking about a resurrection, right?
Yeah.
A healing of a wound to death. That means, again, the person was assumed to be dead and then becomes healed. We're talking about the resurrection. So it's very clear this verse is talking about the crucifixion. Where the hell do you get it? It's talking about some beast in the future. And then all the world wondered after the beast, which we now know we have a name for, Emmanuel, which was a son of who? Man? No, a son of Israel. Because if we say he comes from David, right? Was not David a son of Israel?
Yes.
So if David was a son of Israel, and even in Luke, Emmanuel says he comes from the son of Adam. It's very clear, folks, the lineage here. You're going to have a lot of different groups of what so-called churches. They're going to try to preach a whole bunch of different stuff, and deceive you. What I'm doing is I'm revealing what is very clear. If we understand history.
Sorry.
So all the world wondered after the crucifixion, Emmanuel. Now, if some of you might right now watching this video, when you do click on it, say, "Well, show me." Okay, go to the Catholic church, and in the very beginning of before they do anything, they walk around with a big cross that that has an image of a human being on it, which again we know what that name is. That would be Emmanuel. And they're walking around, and then they go to their altar area, they sit down, and then they start talking. So, right there. And then not even that, all the churches are always talking about now the crucifixion. What church talks more about the events of Egypt with Moses, or even Adam being the forefather of us all as an image, as the spirit going into a fleshly body and making it a living person, because the word is living word? You don't hear people talk about that. You don't hear people talk about Moses. You don't hear people talk about the prophets, where it says, "Man should not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth." It says mouth of God. Okay, great. Isn't it written, "Ye are gods"? Right? So that means that the prophets, how could they be God if his spirit wasn't in them? His word, right? Because Emmanuel makes it very clear, I am the word. I am the spirit. I was in the world. What does that mean, in the world? That means he was in the flesh. Doesn't that make more sense, folks? I am that I am. To Moses, you and I are one. This is the Trinity. So, okay, let's go to...
Want me to read 4?
Yes.
All right, I'm going to read Revelation 13:4. I am going to reveal some of the words, the deeper meaning. Like the word dragon is the Father. All right. And they worship the Father, which...
No, they, my brother here, they is definitely going to be nations. So keep that in mind. Fast forwarding from that point in John's time to our time, all these nations, all these churches, all these people are talking about this one event. Go ahead.
And the nations worshiped the Father, which gave power unto, it says beast, but it's Son of Israel. And they worshipped the Son of Israel, saying, who is like unto the Son of Israel? Who is able to make war with him?
Now, to make war with him, that means who is able to stop the Father? Who is able to basically stop his plans? I mean, even Emmanuel said, "Father, if this is what your will is, then let it be done." He couldn't change that. He knew he had to be crucified. Moses, he didn't want to go. You think he wanted to go back to Egypt and talk to the Pharaoh, his stepfather, or however would call that? Pharaoh. The Pharaoh was like because he was adopted.
Yeah.
So, do you think Moses wanted to go back to Egypt, knowing that the Egyptians clearly knew, and everyone probably told, that he killed an Egyptian, a slave master? So, do you think he wanted to go back to Egypt, knowing that by the law of Egypt, he would be killed? No. But he knew he had to go over there to free what he understood as his people, because the Father chose these people who were beaten by the Father to be built up again, just as Emmanuel was beaten by the Father on the cross, right? And then built back up. Does Emmanuel say the devil did this? Or Satan did this? Does Emmanuel say that? No, he says, if this is your will, Father, let it be done. And then why? How do we know that? Because he says, Lord, Lord, forgive them, for they know not what they do. So he put Emmanuel as a sacrifice, a sin offering, for us instead of killing us. So Emmanuel is pleading just as Moses did at Mount Sinai. Who said he was going to wipe out the children of Israel and then restart everything from Moses' seed? Was that the devil or Satan? No, it was clearly the Father. Read it, folks. Mm-hmm. So the Father's not a hypocrite. And he doesn't change the way he talks. He's the same as yesterday as today. So we have to understand the Bible in its correct language. Okay? Now, we have that Revelation 13:4. And then it said in 13:4, it said war, right? Can we get this Jasher?
Yeah.
34:70. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the book of Jasher, it's mentioned in the book of Joshua and it's mentioned in the book of 2 Samuel. Once in both books, but it does mention a book that was clearly understood by Moses, by the children of Israel in the past.
Okay. Enoch.
No, Jasher.
Jasher 34:70. Thou art he who stirreth up wars and causes them to cease. In thy hand are power and might to exalt and to bring down. O may my prayer be acceptable before thee, that thou mayest turn to me with thy mercies, to impress the hearts of these kings and their people with the terror of my sons, and terrify them and their camps, and with thy great kindness deliver all those that trust in thee. For it is thou who can bring people under us and reduce nations under our power.
Wow. Now let's go to Daniel and we'll see if Jasher has any validation. Because it sounds very similar to what Daniel chapter 2 actually talks about. 2:21 to 23.
Okay. And he changeth the times and the seasons. He removeth kings and setteth up kings. He giveth wisdom unto the wise, and knowledge to them that know understanding. He revealeth the deep and secret things. He knoweth what is in the darkness, and the light dwelleth with him. I thank thee and praise thee, O thou God of my fathers, who hast given me wisdom and might, and hast made known unto me now what we desired of thee. For thou hast now made known unto us the king's matter.
Now let's start real quick with a few sentences in that 21 real quick, please.
Okay. Just read the first two.
The sentence of the first 21.
And he changeth the times and the seasons.
Keep going.
He removeth kings and setteth up kings.
All right, stop there. So he removes kings and sets up kings. Does he just make them vanish?
No.
What's going on in the Middle East?
There are kings. Every country has a king. It would be maybe a president or a...
What happened to Bin Laden? Was he removed? And someone was set up after him? So, again, the Father works through his images and vessels. Stop, folks, having this delusion that the Father works in a mysterious way. It's not mysterious. It's mysterious to you because you don't have that understanding. This is the understanding. Now it will make sense, right? How he works in the physical. Now, to this point, a lot of you are going to cry and say, oh, he's not a wrathful God. Really? Are you sure about that? Did you ask the people in Florida? That recently a lot of people died over there through changing of seasons and times, right? Seasons, doesn't that mean the weather? So didn't people die in the storm that he caused through the hot and cold, right? Correct? In the wind? So ask them if that's the case, because clearly in Leviticus 26, the Father says, I will hurt you if you don't obey my commandments. Again, when does he change his ways? says in the same.
Well, he could change a king by having the king get his castle taken over, and the king gets beheaded.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a change of time and seasons. Now somebody else is ruling in this new time because the old king is dead.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it also has to do with weather is a play, obviously, but it also has to do with like coups and taking over other kingdoms. And
so you're just expanding that concept, right?
Yeah. I'm not just didn't want to focus just on the weather there.
So as Craig said, there's a lot of different in our history. There's a lot of different ways he manifested this work, as he just pointed out. All I'm pointing out with Florida is I'm pointing out his wrath.
Yeah.
People died. Who's in control of death? Read Genesis. Read chapter 2, I believe, right? It says, I'm not saying you have to read it, but I'm saying for you folks, when you go read chapter 2, it'll tell you who started death. Because Adam never knew death until he ate from knowledge, understanding both good and understanding bad. But did he have a complete understanding? No. He had to go through physical actions, physical hardship to understand pain, and the opposite of pain is to be joyful after the pain is done. Repentance to, once you repent of something you did wrong, you feel better, right? So if our emotions are all made in the image and likeness, the likeness of the Father himself, that means he too has emotions. It's very clear he has emotions, because if you read the Bible, he was very upset when the children of Israel were making a golden calf, right?
Yeah.
There was times in the book of Jeremiah, he was very upset. Really? If you guys aren't sure, let's look back at the flood of Noah. That wiped out a lot of people.
Yeah.
So we have to understand the Father is very wrathful. For him to hide his anger, we've seen death, but no one's been telling us this is because he's been angry. So we need to hear teachers saying he's angry is going to manifest in violence. This is why you need to fear him. This is why you need to obey him. Why would you fear someone, even your own parent? Why would you obey them if you didn't fear them? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's go to Ecclesiastes 3:1.
Ecclesiastes 3:1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven.
Is there any more after that?
The next verse is to a time to be born, a time to die, a time to plant, a time to pluck up that which is planted. And then it keeps going. A time to kill, a time to heal, a time to break down.
A time to what?
Kill?
Wow! Daniel, Jasher, Revelation 4 with the war. Who can stop his anger? A time to kill. There's a time for that? There's really time for him to show his anger. Keep going.
Verse 4, a time to weep, a time to laugh, a time to mourn, a time to dance. 5, a time to cast away stones, and a time to gather stones together, a time to embrace, and a time to refrain from embracing. 6, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away.
Wait, a time to lose? Didn't people in Florida lose houses?
Mm-hmm.
A time to lose. Time to lose. Don't people's family members die? A time to lose.
Yes.
So we see in Ecclesiastes, I'm sorry folks I didn't put more up here. What is that? Where did you stop?
I stopped at, I'm sure we can keep going. I stopped at 6.
So we'll just, for you folks at home, you can go and probably, as Craig said, you can read beyond 6, but we'll just give you the reference of 1 through 6. So it says a time to kill. Who's in control of all this? Clearly the Father. We were just established that through the book of Jasher and the book of Daniel. What does that sound like? It sounds like emotions, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
So when we go to Genesis, chapter 1, verse 27, it says, made in the likeness and the image of. Likeness, doesn't that seem like a personality trait?
Yeah.
I mean, where do we get our emotions? Who do we get them from? We don't just develop these things, folks. Our emotions and situations of our lives, really think about this, please. Our emotions, situation of our lives is what drives us to make decisions, to go to certain paths in our lives that we probably, without feeling those emotions, would never have gone to. Without thinking certain things that are put into our mind, we would never desire or plan to do things. So clearly the Father controls. I can't explain this. I can't explain this enough, folks. We just very clearly, would you say, Craig, explain how he rises nations, brings them down. Nations, how much more our individual lives? He controls the weather. How much more our individual lives? How much more our mind and our emotions?
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're probably wondering, when am I going to get to this one? I'm almost done here, folks. So, in Genesis 3:15, your children shall bruise your head. It says, thy shall bruise thou head, in King James. So we just updated language. Your children, again, who crucified Emmanuel? Now again, we're all children of Adam, okay? But Emmanuel is known as the son of Israel. He came through Mary. Mary is a descendant of David. So he's not saying Rome is doing this. He's saying the people that are, in a way, closer to me in a blood-related lineage, right? Like your mom and your dad are closer to you than your neighbor in a blood-related lineage, right? Mm-hmm. So if we understand it from that concept, even though we're all children of Adam, so we're all family, but he's referring to who desired to kill him. It was the Pharisees, right? The Pharisees manipulated the crowd. Remember, Rome didn't want any part of it. All Rome did was say, you know what? I clean my hands. I'm going to give you these soldiers. Because you say you can't do it. You can't order anyone to do it. So you want to order this man's death through us to do your dirty work. Okay? We will do that. But keep in mind, you're the one that's planning this. You're the one that's telling the soldiers what to do. Okay? So your children, now we understand that as the Pharisees, shall bruise your head. As I saw one of his heads. Again, multiple heads, but a particular head received a bruise. Bruise on your head. You don't see an S, right? But you see it up here. We're getting somewhere, right? And you shall bruise their heel. If we're not sure what this means by heel, has anyone seen the movie Troy? You've seen it, right, Craig? Troy. No. Okay. Sorry for the coughing in the background. So, in the movie Troy, I forget the guy's name. But,
is that the one with Brad Pitt?
Yes.
I saw parts of it.
Okay. Well, I forget the guy.
Oh, Achilles.
Achilles, thank you. So Achilles is the character that the actor Brad Pitt plays in Troy. Now, why is this important? Because, again, this is loosely based on real events. The particular scene in the movie that's really based on real events is Achilles' heel got pierced. Now, when your heel, and that's why they call it on the back of your foot Achilles' heel now, because they never understood in the past, if you wound this part of your body part, you can't rise. You can't get up. But the Father knew it. He clearly knew that. You destroy the heel of someone, they can't rise up against. So, thou and you shall bruise their heel. Are we talking about the great war that's supposed to come of Gog and Magog? Which is one side would be the whole born again children of Israel versus the ones that don't want to convert to being born again, which we call Gentiles. So clearly, we will destroy our enemy. How? Because they won't be able to rise. How is that? Well, we just talked about how the Father controls wars.
Yeah.
Look at what's going on in the Middle East. Israel is outnumbered, that nation. Now again, is that the true children of Israel that's over there that has that name, Israel? No, because they allow, I know you guys are going to get mad at this, but you need to hear the truth. They allow LGBT, gay, lesbians, and many other sins to stay there. And Joshua, which everyone calls Yahshua, would not go for this. Even Moses would not have gone for this. Speaking of controlling wars, didn't Moses do that? He had his arms up, the children of Israel were winning. He put his arms down, who were losing? And who was winning?
Yeah.
They had, go ahead.
Children of Israel were losing when his hands were down.
Mm-hmm. And his arms were so tired that Joshua and someone else? Caleb had to basically brace his arms and keep them up because it was getting heavy for him. His muscles were tired. In order for the children of Israel to beat their enemies. Wow, who had authority there? Moses. Who had it says in that verse 4, all authority is given on to who? Emmanuel. What does Emmanuel say before he was crucified a couple, probably days before that event even took place? All authority is given to me by my Father. Wow. Is that what Revelation 4 was actually talking about? And yet, scholars don't understand this. No wonder why they have darkness in them.
Now, real quick, they're not able to rise, because you taught me this. They're not able to rise because they are teaching falsely.
Mm-hmm.
They are a handicap because they don't know the truth.
Correct. How can you go in any direction unless you're guided? And clearly, again, I said this before in this video, how can you be guided when it's not by what you eat? So it's not by bread alone, it's not by actions, it's by living by every word that was taught from the past, meaning taught by the prophets. Okay? And then there's another event that happened, I forget where it is, folks, I'm sorry, but it's I think it's in the book of Luke, where Abraham tells this guy that there's no point of you going to your brothers and trying to convince them to repent when they have Moses and the prophets. If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, why would they won't even be able to listen to you? Because of the handicap. Because that's what the Father gave for us to understand. Now you have false pastors. Now you have to understand the difference between a false pastor and someone that clearly understands wisdom. Now again, to put the nail in the coffin, as they say, you have the final verse. I'm sorry, again, it's not up here because really the whole topic was explaining how he rests after being crucified. So the seventh day was full of, remember, a wicked generation. So in order for a wicked generation to really rise up, and for Daniel in chapter 11 to say there's an overspreading of an abomination, hell, meaning sinful deeds, has enlarged itself. Clearly what that means is the children of Israel that would have the word are completely taken out of the picture. Why? Because they're in Gentile nations. They're in a state of darkness, meaning hidden, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, I'm pointing up to here, just don't mind me with that. So imagine here the word darkness, okay? Just imagine that. So they're in a state of blindness, okay? That's why they can't speak the truth. Again, how is that true? Does he say let the tares and wheat grow up together? Until the time of the harvest, then he will separate the light from the dark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we clearly see in that understanding that the children of Israel cast into the Gentiles. Children of Israel were the wheat, Gentiles were the tares, and now they grow up together. How? Because they're all doing sinful works. Until the time appointed that a group of people from all the nations start saying, hey, there's someone that's actually explaining this stuff. Makes a lot more sense. Definitely shows that what I've been taught was a strong delusion to not understand truth. And then there you go, you have a great harvest. It's not because people just disappear, as I say, as a rapture. That makes no sense to Scripture, because we're all supposed to come to defend the word. If you're disappeared, how are you defending anything? How are you giving the love to lay down your life for your neighbor and to be hated? You can't do those things if you're gone. So we understand that Genesis 3:15, you need 3:15 to understand Revelation 3, chapter 13, 3 and 4, because what we're doing is Adam's being prophesied that clearly Emmanuel is the one that receives a dead wound, which is the crucifixion. He resurrects because it was healed. So we see that this is a prophecy given to Adam all the way to Emmanuel's time.
That part right there, it says all the world, it's all the nations wondered after the son of Israel. So they got focused on just that one head, this one son of Israel, and that's where they stumble.
Correct.
This is where they can't get up because they don't know the whole timeline.
Correct. And again, this will be because because Craig said that, I would put here in the notes that, do you know where that is? Where it says, it's in John, I believe, where it says, if you knew Moses, you would know me.
Oh.
So what he said was very true. They focus on one head, one person. But what did he say? If you knew Moses, you would know me. If you don't know Moses' words, how will you be able to comprehend what the Father's been saying since the time of Adam? If you don't know Moses, who spoke about Adam?
John 5:46.
Go ahead and read that. John 5:46, people.
For had ye believed Moses, ye would have believed me, for he wrote of me. That's the King James version.
So hold on. What did you say? Repeat what you said, please, about they focus on one head.
Yeah, well, yeah. They are unable to rise and know the full truth because all they do is focus on the one they killed, which says in that verse, they bruised the head, they killed the one, and then they wondered after that one son of Israel.
Instead of listening to all the words of the prophets.
And then don't listen to all the words of the prophets, so that is why they have a bruise on their heel, and they're not able to rise up. They're kept in a certain place for man should not live by bread alone, but every word that proceeded from the mouth of the Father.
So if they can't understand what you guys just heard, and understand that you have to live by every word, not just Emmanuel, because he said he comes as a prophet, folks. He even says, you killed the prophets, you wish to kill me. So he's backing up, he says, did not come to destroy the laws, nor the prophets. Meaning, he just said, if you live by every word of the prophets, if you knew Moses, which is a prophet, you would know me. He never came to destroy the works of the prophets or their words. So churches, stop teaching lies. Okay. Anything you want to add?
Well, I don't want to keep the video too long, but right after Revelation 13:3 and 4, and there was given unto him, I actually think it's the nations, a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies.
That's the church.
The church. So again, it goes to, because, all right, you're talking about a head. The world, the nations wonder after this one head. Mm-hmm. And then they speak blasphemies because, one, they don't know the whole history. They narrow in on one aspect of the head, and they say that all my sins will be forgiven if I say the name of this head. And when actuality, when they say Jesus, they are doing blasphemies.
Because when my what my brother is trying to say too, folks, is the church is saying that only Emmanuel is a son of his father, a son of God. But how is that possible when it says, if you listen to my commandments, you shall be my people, aka children, I shall be your father? Where is it only one of the children of Adam? Because remember, Adam came from Mary, right? Mary came from Adam. So where does it say that one child of Adam becomes this only child of our Father, of God? No, it never says that. Even Emmanuel does not say, I am the only son. Ha 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 ha. No. He even tells John, don't bow to me, because you're supposed to be like me. Take this bread, eat it. This is on my body. Join me in how I am. Take this wine. This is on my blood, aka spirit. Take it in you. Take the new wine in you. Pour out the old wine. Be like me. Let them be as I am. Let them be as me. As I am one with you, O Father, let them be one with me. One with me. One mind, speak the same thing. How one Father, right? One God, one baptism. How is it here, folks, that the church, and it's okay for you, I guess, that you listen and eat blasphemies when they say you don't have to listen to Moses, you don't have to listen to the prophets, you just have to listen to that one head.
And that's where the Father rested. This is where we get back to the seventh day he rested. He dispersed all of the children of Israel into all the nations, and then they were under the rules and laws of those individual nations. Mm-hmm. So they witnessed the word onto the world, but they also were unable to be their own nation, to rise up and to teach all truth. Mm-hmm. So they were teaching like half-truths and partial truths. And I don't know the verse, but he says when the one comes, the Comforter comes, all truth will be revealed. It's in John.
That's like John 16 or 15.
And this is what it's talking about. It's like the partial truths are eliminated. Those who only know in part.
We all know in part of that. That's Corinthians.
Till the one comes, the Comforter comes, and all truth is revealed, because only one can the Father himself, who concealed it, is the only one that can reveal it. That's why there's many false teachers. Mm-hmm. And that is what he was talking about, like to watch yourself and guard yourself against those, because that is what keeps his people, his children.
If they could, they would deceive even the elect.
Yes.
That's in Daniel.
So yeah, he rises up. We get into Revelation. He rises up out of the pit, He rises up from that darkness
from that rest.
From that rest. And it's not like Satan rising out of the pits of hell.
No, because it says in Judges, he has the nations. It says he left the nations of the children of Canaan when Joshua was beating all of them. He left some of them around so that he can test the children of Israel, and anyone who eats and drinks from that wisdom, he can test them because that's where it says, prove yourself to be righteous and understand the truth. So he has these nations and these false churches that are to test us so that we can prove we are children of Israel. So that's where it says in Revelation, he comes to, it says, tempt the world one last time. It's not tempting, it's testing. He's testing in order to sort out the wheat from the tares, folks.
Yeah, the sheep from the goats.
Yes.
There's one more.
Well, the other one is in the talents. He gives talents, which is not really money, but is knowledge. He gives it to 3 men. One of them says, okay, and he doubles, because remember, each of these 3 men don't have any followers. So one of them doubles it and gets like 10 followers. Mm-hmm. The other one doubles their knowledge because they get 5 people. And the other one basically keeps it within himself. It says he digs a hole and buries it. Well, what that means is he keeps the knowledge in himself. He dug it in himself. And he has no followers. And what that means is when the Father came and says, okay, how many people did you gather? Remember, it talks about the marriage. Gather everyone onto the marriage. What marriage are we talking about? We're talking about the knowledge, the truth, the words of the prophets. So you gather everyone onto the word. Man should live by every word. And then he talks to them. He says, oh, you doubled it. Great, you get this reward. Oh, you doubled it. Great, you get this reward. You knew the knowledge. You know I control all these things. Remember the wars. We just went over this, right? And these notes here. So the 3rd man knows that the Father controls all things. Well, why do I need to do anything? You do stuff to not just to defend, but to testify of the existence of the Father unto who? The darkness, aka Gentiles. Where is your reward? Even the politicians only teach among themselves, it says, right? Mm-hmm. Where is your reward if you're not being hated, if you're not preaching to defend the truth, if you're not trying to wake people up from their slumber? So the verses are there. It's telling you. It's just people aren't teaching it right. So what does he do to that 3rd person? He strips everything that person had as a time to take away. Ecclesiastes.
Yes.
So he took away all the things that person had and also took away his knowledge. What happened to Solomon when he disobeyed? All that knowledge got taken away.
Yeah.
So it's very important. In that verse right there, I just said, showed a wrathful side of him. He completely judged that person and took everything away. Again, what happens to the goat? He sends him into to be destroyed. Where, folks, is he just this merciful, loving, dancing through the petals God? No, he has an anger side. And you better wake up to it.
Yeah, so the 1,000 years of peace isn't like you had peace and bliss and everybody's singing kumbaya and loving each other, giving each other hugs.
And folks,
the peace was he didn't kill you.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, and folks, that peace that also the 1,000 years part is in 2 Peter 3:8. One day is as 1,000 years. I apologize for that.
Yeah, that's an important one.
But he just talked about that. Repeat what you just said.
Well, yeah. In Revelation, I don't know the exact verse, but yeah, it has the 1,000 years of peace. But it was the 1,000 years of us in blindness and darkness, and the peace was that he didn't wipe us out.
Yeah, which he could have killed us.
So the fact that things are increasing,
Because he gave that offering on the crucifixion.
That we're entering in this tribulation is obviously a sign, because you go from where you're not really seeing him fully on the scene, and now you are.
Mm-hmm.
That peace is ended. That darkness is ending because what? Because the truth is coming back.
Yes.
And again, knowledge begins with fear of the Father.
Wisdom begins with fear.
And that's what happened to Adam and Eve in the garden. They feared the Father and they hid themselves from him, and
they were learning.
Yeah.
Compared to before eating the fruit, they never knew to fear him. They never knew that they had to. They never needed knowledge. They never needed to learn. So now, in order to be like the Father, who has all these emotions, all this thoughts, right? This whole planning, in order to be like him, having one mind, to speak. I mean, did Adam speak any of this stuff that's happened over a period of decades? Clearly not. He never spoke any close to the amount that we now have recorded from Isaiah, from Jeremiah, from Moses. Why did these events have to happen? So that we have an understanding. Why let them be one in me as I am in you. How did Adam understand that? No, it was given for us a generation decades later to understand this from a seed of Adam, our brother and sister, called Emmanuel. In order to be one with the Father, you have to know some stuff. Adam didn't know anything until he ate from the tree of knowledge. Not sin, knowledge.
And I don't know exactly what's going to be in the next part, but I'm assuming the heads.
We'll go into Enoch.
We'll go more into the heads.
Mm-hmm.
And the 7 weeks prophecy out of Enoch.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be in the next one. And again, you're going to learn the days like we mentioned Noah. He is one of the heads. So we're going to get more into that. And we mentioned Moses. And we've talked about Solomon. But you'll start seeing the full picture. And then,
going back to Genesis with the days.
So, again, any questions you might have, please leave them in the comments, and then look forward to our next teaching where some of the loose ends are going to get tightened up and you'll understand better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, everybody, thanks for coming and viewing our teachings, and see you soon. Bye.